Hey there, and welcome to Crazy Pepper, the channel where drama sizzles and revenge burns hotter than ever. If you love jaw-dropping twists, bold characters, and stories that keep you guessing till the end, you're in the right place. Subscribe and dive into gripping tales of betrayal, karma, and ultimate payback. Get ready for unforgettable moments and satisfying endings, only on Crazy Pepper. Hit that, though, and let the drama begin.
You'll pay for cheating with my wife and ruining my family.
I came home early to surprise my wife. Instead, I found clothes leading up the stairs to our bedroom, a black button-down shirt at the bottom step, her blue bra on step 3, his belt on step 7. Each piece of fabric told a story I'd been too stupid to read for months. The house felt different, charged with the kind of electricity that comes right before lightning strikes. My name is David Walsh, and I fix transmissions for a living. 38 years old, calloused hands, and apparently the last person in northern Michigan to figure out his wife was screwing around. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could diagnose a failing clutch from 3 blocks away, but I couldn't spot a failing marriage happening in my own bedroom. I set my toolbox down quietly by the front door. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked like a countdown timer. Each second felt deliberate, measured, like the universe was giving me time to process what came next. Their voices drifted down from upstairs, muffled laughter, the creak of bed springs. Sounds that should have been mine to hear, in a house I'd been paying for 16 years. I walked to my recliner, the one piece of furniture in this place that still felt like it belonged to me, pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. Then I sat down to wait, patient as a hunter in a deer blind. The laughter stopped. Water ran in the bathroom. More whispers. These weren't teenagers fumbling around in the dark. These were adults who'd been practicing this dance for a while. 20 minutes later, they came down the stairs together. My wife Karen first, smoothing her hair, trying to look composed. Behind her, some guy in his 30s with the kind of build that screamed gym membership and protein shakes. He was buttoning his shirt, moving with the casual confidence of a man who thought he'd gotten away with something. "Oh, crap," Karen whispered when she saw me. I held up my phone, already recording. "Hey there, sweetheart. Having a nice afternoon?" The guy, later I'd learn his name was Brett Sullivan, took a step forward. "Look, man, I can explain." "Explain what?" I kept my voice conversational. "How you ended up without clothes in my bedroom. How your belt ended up on my stairs. I'm curious about the logistics here." Karen's face went through several colors before settling on pale green. "David, please, just let me." "Let you what? Explain how this isn't what it looks like?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're screwing someone who isn't your husband in the house I pay for." Brett stepped closer, puffing out his chest. "You need to calm down." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Calm down? Friend, I am calm. Calm enough to notice you left your underwear on my stairs. Calm enough to get this whole conversation on video. And calm enough to do this." I opened FaceTime and dialed a number I'd found in his wallet while they were upstairs. The call connected after 3 rings. "Brett? Why are you calling me from... Who is this?" "Hi there," I said to the woman on the screen. "I'm David Walsh. Your husband just finished having sex with my wife in my bedroom." "I thought you should know." The woman's face crumpled. In the background, I could hear children playing. Brett lunged for the phone. "You son of a witch!" I stood up, still holding the phone steady. Brett swung wildly, his fist connecting with my jaw. The impact sent stars across my vision, but I'd been in plenty of fights growing up in this town. I dropped the phone, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. He screamed. "David, stop." Karen was crying now, makeup running down her cheeks. I drove my knee into Brett's solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. Then I grabbed him by the back of his neck and walked him toward the front door. "You're going to leave now," I said. "You're going to collect your dignity from my stairs on the way out. And if I ever see you on my property again, I'll do a lot more than embarrass you in front of your family." I opened the door and shoved him onto the porch. He stumbled, caught himself on the railing, and turned back with homicide in his eyes. "This isn't over," he said. "Yeah, it is." I shut the door and turned to Karen. She was sitting on the bottom step, head in her hands. "How long?" I asked. "David, I can explain." "How long, Karen?" 6 months. 6 months. Well, I'd been working 10-hour days to pay for the mortgage on this house. She'd been using our bedroom as a hotel room. While I'd been asking her about her day, she'd been lying to my face with the same mouth she'd been using to. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a drink. Bourbon, neat. The kind of drink that burns going down and leaves you empty afterward. I want a divorce, I said. Karen looked up, mascara streaked down her face. David, please, we can work this out. It was a mistake. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is leaving the garage door open. 6 months of screwing another man in our bed isn't a mistake. It's a choice. She stood up, trying to compose herself. You don't understand. You're never here. You work all the time. I felt lonely. So you decided to cure your loneliness by spreading your legs for the first guy who paid attention to you. Don't talk to me like that. I'll talk to you however I want. This is my house. It's our house. Not anymore. I walked to the phone and dialed 911. Yeah, I need to report a trespassing and attack. A man broke into my house and attacked me. Karen's eyes went wide. David, what are you doing? Making sure your boyfriend understands the consequences of his actions. When the cops arrived 20 minutes later, Brett was still sitting in his car at the end of the driveway, probably trying to figure out how to explain to his wife why he'd just been caught with his pants down on live video. Officer Martinez took my statement. I showed him the recording, the scattered clothes, the mark on my jaw where Brett had punched me. Pretty straightforward case. You want to press charges? Martinez asked. Damn right I do. They arrested Brett right there in front of the neighbors. Mrs. Henderson from next door watched from her window as they put him in handcuffs. By tomorrow, everyone in the neighborhood would know what had happened. After the cops left, I sat back down in my recliner. Karen was upstairs, probably calling her sister or her mother or whoever she called when her world fell apart. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter Emma, who was away at college. Dad, are you okay? Brett's wife just called me crying. I typed back, I'm fine. Come home this weekend. We need to talk. Another buzz. This time from my lawyer, Jim Patterson. Heard about the arrest. Call me first thing tomorrow. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Don't move out of the house. Smart advice. Jim had been handling divorces in this town for 20 years. He knew how these things went. I poured another bourbon and looked around the living room. 16 years of marriage. And it had come down to this. Scattered clothes on the stairs and a cheating wife crying in our bedroom. But here's the thing about betrayal. It clarifies things, strips away all the pretense, and shows you exactly who people really are. Karen wasn't the woman I'd married. She was someone else entirely. Someone who could lie to my face for 6 months while I worked my A off to keep us afloat. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. She came down slowly, having cleaned up her makeup and put on a robe. David, we need to talk about this rationally. I think we're past rational, don't you? She sat on the edge of the couch, keeping her distance. I know you're hurt. I know you're angry. But we have 17 years together. We have Emma. We can't just throw that away. I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you brought another man into our bed. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made a choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Working in that garage, coming home smelling like motor oil, spending your weekends watching football and drinking beer. You think that's what I wanted? That's what I signed up for? I think you signed up for better or worse, for richer or poorer. Till death do us part. Remember those words? Those were just words, David. This is real life. You're right. This is real life. And in real life, actions have consequences. I stood up and walked to the window. Brett's car was gone, but I could still see the spot where the police cruiser had been parked. The neighbors were going to have a field day with this story. I'm not leaving this house, I said. This is my home. I've been making the payments for 16 years. If you want to leave, there's the door. Karen's voice rose. You can't just kick me out. I have rights. Yeah, you do. You have the right to get yourself a good lawyer. You're going to need one. She stood up, her face flushed with anger. You fool. You're going to regret this. I already regret it. I regret marrying you. I regret trusting you. I regret wasting 16 years of my life on someone who could betray me like this. She stormed upstairs, and I heard our bedroom door slam. A few minutes later, she came back down with a suitcase. I'm going to stay with my sister for a few days, she said. Give us both time to cool down. Take all the time you need. She paused at the door. David, I'm sorry. I really am. But this marriage has been over for a long time. We both know it, maybe, but I wasn't the one who decided to end it by screwing someone else. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and tried to process what had just happened. In the span of 3 hours, my marriage had exploded, my wife had moved out, and her boyfriend was sitting in a jail cell. I called Jim Patterson and left a message. It's David Walsh. Karen and I are getting divorced. She's been cheating for 6 months. I caught them in the act and had the guy arrested for attack. Call me back. Then I called my boss and told him I'd be taking a few days off. 20 years of perfect attendance bought me some leeway. The house felt different now, bigger, emptier, but also somehow cleaner, like the infection had been drained. I was halfway through my 3rd bourbon when my phone rang. Emma. Dad, what the hell happened? I keep getting calls from Mom's friends asking if I know where she is. Your mother was having an affair, I said. I caught them today. She's at your aunt's house now. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, Dad, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me. Be sorry for her. She's the one who threw away her family. Are you okay? Do you need me to come home? I'm fine. Come home this weekend like we planned. We'll figure out what comes next. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. The house settled around me with familiar creaks and sighs. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and paperwork and the messy business of dividing up a life. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I thought about Brett, sitting in his cell, probably wondering how his afternoon had gone so wrong. I thought about Karen, crying to her sister about how unreasonable I was being. I thought about their 6 months of sneaking around, thinking they were so clever. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just hurt, it changes you. It strips away illusions you didn't even know you had. It shows you that the person you trusted most in the world is capable of looking you in the eye and lying without flinching. But it also shows you what you're made of, what you'll tolerate and what you won't, what you'll fight for and what you'll let go. I finished my drink and went upstairs. Our bedroom still smelled like Zex and betrayal. I opened the windows to let in the October air, then stripped the sheets and threw them in the washing machine. Tomorrow I'd start putting my life back together. Tonight, I'd sleep in the guest room and dream about a future that didn't include my lying wife and her pathetic boyfriend. The phone rang at 6 a.m. Jim Patterson. David, I got your message. Jesus Christ, what a mess. Tell me exactly what happened. I walked him through the whole story over coffee. The clothes on the stairs, the confrontation, the arrest, Karen's departure. Did you punch him first? Jim asked. No. He swung on me after I showed his wife the video. I was defending myself. Good. That's attack on his part. The trespassing charge might be harder to make stick since Karen let him in, but the attack is solid. What about the divorce? Infidelity is still grounds in Michigan. The fact that you caught them in the act, have video evidence, and he attacked you is going to make this a lot easier. She's not going to get much sympathy from a judge. What about the house? You've been making the payments for 16 years. It's your primary residence. Unless she can prove she contributed significantly to the mortgage, you should be able to keep it. And custody of Emma? She's 17. The court will consider her preferences. Plus, Karen's the one who cheated and abandoned the family home. You're in a strong position. We talked for another hour about strategy and timelines. Jim was confident we could get a quick settlement, especially if Karen's lawyer was smart enough to realize she was holding a losing hand. After Jim left, I went to work. I needed the normalcy of it, the familiar weight of tools in my hands, the straightforward problems of broken transmissions and worn clutches. My partner, Tony, was already there, drinking coffee and reading the paper. Heard about the excitement at your place yesterday, he said. News travels fast. Martinez's wife is my cousin. She said they arrested some guy for knocking on you. Something like that. Tony folded the paper and looked at me. You okay, man? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Karen really cheating on you? 6 months. Tony shook his head. Jesus, I always liked Karen. Seemed like good people. People aren't always what they seem. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. There's something therapeutic about mechanical work when your personal life is falling apart. Engines don't lie to you. They either work or they don't. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over, a-hole. You ruined my life." I showed it to Tony. "Brett's out of jail," I said. "You going to call the cops?" "Not yet." "Let him dig his own grave." I screenshotted the message and sent it to Jim Patterson. Within an hour, Jim had filed for a restraining order. The next few days fell into a routine. Work during the day, lawyer meetings in the evening, quiet nights in my empty house. Karen called twice, but I let it go to voicemail. She was crying both times, talking about how we needed to work things out, how she'd made a mistake. Emma came home Friday night. She hugged me tight at the door, and I could feel her tension. "How are you holding up, Dad?" "I'm good, better than I expected." We ordered pizza and sat in the living room, talking about everything except the divorce. It felt almost normal, except for the obvious absence of her mother. "Have you talked to Mom?" Emma asked finally. "Not since she left. She's been calling me, crying a lot. She says you won't return her calls." "I don't have anything to say to her. Dad, I know what she did was wrong, but she's still my mother. And she's falling apart." I looked at my daughter. 17 years old, caught between two parents who couldn't manage their own lives. "I'm sorry you're in the middle of this, sweetheart, but your mother made her choice. She chose to betray our family. Now she gets to live with the consequences. She wants to come home. This isn't her home anymore." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "What happens now?" "Now we move forward. You finish high school, go to college, build your life. I'll be here supporting you every step of the way. And Mom, your mother will have to figure out her own path." Saturday morning, I was in the garage working on a transmission when I heard voices in the driveway. Through the window, I saw Karen getting out of her sister's car. She was dressed up, makeup perfect, looking like she was going to a job interview. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked outside. "Hello, David." "Karen, can we talk?" "Please?" I glanced at her sister Linda, who was staying in the car. 5 minutes. We walked to the backyard out of earshot. Karen took a deep breath. "I know you're angry," she said. "I know I hurt you, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling, start over. 17 years of marriage is worth fighting for." "Is it? Because you didn't seem to think so when you were screwing Brett Sullivan in our bedroom." She flinched. "That was a mistake. I was confused, lonely. You were aroused. Let's not dress it up as something noble. David, please, I'm begging you. Don't throw away our family over this." "I'm not throwing away anything. You already did that." "What about Emma? What about her future? Do you want her to come from a broken home?" "She already comes from a broken home. The difference is now it's honest." Karen's composure cracked. "You fool. You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "Watching me suffer?" "I'm not enjoying anything. I'm just done pretending." "Pretending what?" "That we were happy, that our marriage was solid, that you were faithful. All of it was a lie, Karen. The only difference is now I know it." She stood there for a moment, tears streaming down her face. Then her expression hardened. "You're going to regret this," she said. "I'm going to fight you for everything. The house, custody, alimony, all of it. Go ahead. I look forward to explaining to a judge why you think you deserve anything after what you did." She turned and walked back to the car. I watched them drive away, then went back to work on the transmission. Monday morning, Jim Patterson called with news. "Karen hired Beth Morrison," he said. "Should I be worried?" "Morrison's good, but she's expensive." "Where's Karen getting the money?" "Probably from her sister, or Brett." "Speaking of Brett, the restraining order was approved. He can't come within 500 feet of you or your property." "Good. There's something else. Morrison filed for emergency custody of Emma and exclusive use of the marital home." I felt my stomach drop. Can they do that? They can file. Doesn't mean they'll win, but we need to be prepared. The hearing is Thursday. What do I need to do? Keep doing what you're doing. Don't lose your temper. Don't do anything stupid. Let Morrison hang herself. Thursday morning, I put on my best suit and met Jim at the courthouse. Karen was already there with her lawyer, looking nervous. Beth Morrison was a sharp-dressed woman in her 50s with a kind of aggressive confidence that made expensive lawyers rich. She approached the bench like she owned the place. Your Honor, my client is seeking emergency custody of the minor child and exclusive use of the marital home due to Mr. Walsh's violent and unpredictable behavior. Judge Harrison looked skeptical. What violent behavior? Mr. Walsh physically attacked Mr. Sullivan in front of his wife and child. He has displayed anger management issues and created an unsafe environment for the minor child. Jim stood up. Your Honor, Mr. Walsh was defending himself after Mr. Sullivan struck him first. Mr. Sullivan was trespassing on Mr. Walsh's property after engaging in infidelity with Mr. Walsh's wife. The attack charges are against Mr. Sullivan, not Mr. Walsh. Is that correct, Miss Morrison? Morrison's confidence faltered slightly. Your Honor, regardless of who initiated the physical altercation, Mr. Walsh has created a hostile environment by defending himself in his own home against a trespasser, Judge Harrison interrupted. Miss Morrison, do you have any evidence of Mr. Walsh being violent toward his wife or daughter? No, Your Honor, but any evidence of substance misuse or neglect? No, Your Honor. Any evidence that he's unfit to care for his daughter? Morrison glanced at Karen, who was looking increasingly pale. No, Your Honor. Then what exactly is the emergency here? Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh has been forced to leave her home due to her husband's hostile behavior. She has nowhere to go and no access to her daughter. Judge Harrison looked at Jim. Mr. Patterson? Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh left the home voluntarily after being caught in infidelity. She has not been denied access to her daughter, who is 17 years old and capable of making her own decisions about visitation. As for the home, Mr. Walsh has been making the mortgage payments for 16 years and is not engaged in any domestic violence. The judge was quiet for a moment, reviewing the paperwork. Miss Morrison, infidelity is still grounds for divorce in Michigan. Your client was caught in the act, correct? Yes, Your Honor, but in the marital home? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Patterson, has your client prevented Mrs. Walsh from seeing her daughter? No, Your Honor. Emma has been staying with her father because she chooses to. And Mr. Walsh has been making the mortgage payments? For 16 years, Your Honor. Judge Harrison set down the papers. Miss Morrison, I'm denying your motion for emergency custody and exclusive use of the home. Mrs. Walsh is free to visit her daughter at any reasonable time, and both parties will continue to have equal access to the marital assets pending the final divorce decree. Morrison's face went red. Your Honor, I believe the court is not considering the full impact of this situation on my client's well-being. Miss Morrison, your client should have considered the impact on her well-being before committing infidelity. Motion denied. Outside the courthouse, Karen was crying again. Morrison was trying to console her, but I could hear the frustration in her voice. We'll appeal, Morrison was saying. This is just the first round. Jim and I walked to his car. Well, I asked. That went better than expected. Morrison overplayed her hand. Judge Harrison doesn't have much patience for cheating spouses who play sufferer. What's next? Discovery. We get to see all of Karen's financial records, communications, everything. If she's been spending money on her affair, we'll find it. And if she has been, then she'll be paying you back out of her share of the assets. 2 weeks later, Jim called with interesting news. We got Karen's phone records, he said. She's been calling Brett every day since the arrest. Also, she's been using the joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms. How many hotel rooms? 17 different hotels over the past 6 months. Always on days when you were working late. Can we use that? Absolutely. She was spending marital assets on her affair. That's going to cost her. Good. There's more. Brett's been paying for some of the hotels, too. We found charges on his credit card that matched the dates. So they were planning this? Looks like it. This wasn't just a casual affair. They were conducting a deliberate campaign of deception. I felt a cold satisfaction. The more evidence we gathered, the stronger our case became. Karen had been playing the sufferer, but the facts told a different story. That evening, Emma came home from school looking upset. Dad, some kids at school are saying things about Mom. What kind of things? That she's a hoe? That she destroyed our family? That you're getting everything in the divorce? I sat down across from her. Emma, I know this is hard. But your mother made choices that had consequences. I can't control what people say about those choices. But it's not fair. She's my mother. You're right. She is your mother and she always will be. But that doesn't change what she did. Emma was quiet for a moment. She wants to see me this weekend. Okay, you can see her whenever you want. Will you come with me? No, sweetheart. Your mother and I are done talking. Saturday morning, Emma went to visit Karen at Linda's house. She came back 3 hours later looking drained. How was it? I asked. She cried the whole time. She kept saying how sorry she was, how she wanted to come home, how you were being unreasonable. What did you tell her? I told her I couldn't choose sides, that I love both of you. That's all you can do. Dad, she's really falling apart. She's not eating, not sleeping. Linda says she just sits in her room all day. I'm sorry she's hurting, but I can't fix this for her. She says Brett won't return her calls. I wasn't surprised. Brett had gotten himself arrested and publicly humiliated. His wife had probably filed for divorce by now. The last thing he needed was to be associated with Karen. Emma, your mother is going to have to figure out how to put her life back together. That's not your responsibility. But she's my mother. Yes, she is, and she made choices that destroyed her family. Now she gets to live with those choices. A month later, things started to escalate. I was working late at the garage when Tony came in looking worried. David, there's 3 guys in the parking lot asking about you. I looked out the window. 3 men in their 20s, standing by a pickup truck. I recognized one of them, Brett's younger brother. Did they say what they wanted? They said they wanted to talk to you about what you did to their friend? I reached for my phone. I'm calling the cops. Maybe you should go out the back door. No, I'm not running from these idiots. I walked outside, Tony behind me. The 3 men approached, trying to look tough. You David Walsh? The tallest one asked. Yeah. We're here about Brett Sullivan. What about him? You got him arrested? Cost him his job? His family? He's talking about eliminating himself. That's not my problem. The shorter one stepped forward. Actually, it is your problem. You made it your problem when you decided to destroy a good man's life. A good man doesn't screw another man's wife. A good man doesn't try to ruin someone over a mistake. I laughed. A mistake? 6 months of sneaking around isn't a mistake. It's a choice. The tall one moved closer. We're here to give you a choice. Drop the charges, call off the divorce, and leave Brett alone. Or we'll make your life very difficult. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Say that again. The shorter one swung at me. I ducked, and his fist hit the brick wall behind me. He screamed and grabbed his hand. The tall one grabbed me by the shirt. I drove my knee into his stomach, and he doubled over. The third one tried to grab me from behind, but Tony hit him with a tire iron. Within minutes, all 3 were on the ground, and I was calling 911. Yeah, I need police and an ambulance at Walsh's Auto Repair. 3 men just attacked me in my parking lot. Officer Martinez showed up with backup. I showed him the video, and they arrested all 3 men for attack and making terroristic threats. This is getting out of hand, Martinez said. You need to be careful. I'm done being careful. If these idiots want to escalate, we'll escalate. The next morning, Jim Patterson called. I heard about last night. Are you okay? I'm fine. But I want to discuss strategy. What do you have in mind? I want to go on the offensive. I'm tired of reacting to these people. What are you thinking? I want to file a civil suit against Brett for alienation of affection. I want to sue him for everything he's worth. That's a nuclear option, David. Are you sure? I'm sure. These people want to play hardball. We'll play hardball. Okay, I'll drop the papers. But David, this is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. Now it's going to get expensive. That afternoon, I went to see Brett's wife. She was living in a small apartment across town, looking like she'd aged 10 years in 2 months. Mrs. Sullivan? I'm David Walsh. She looked at me through the screen door. I know who you are. I wanted to give you this. I handed her a copy of the civil suit. I'm suing your husband for alienation of affection. I thought you should know. She took the papers with shaking hands. How much? Everything. The house, his pension, his savings, all of it. He doesn't have much left after the legal fees. Then he'll have nothing. Mr. Walsh, I know what he did was wrong. But he's the father of my children. If you take everything, they'll suffer too. Your husband should have thought about that before he decided to screw my wife. She started crying. Please, I'm begging you. Don't destroy what's left of our family. Your family was destroyed the day your husband decided to cheat. I'm just making sure there are consequences. I walked away, leaving her crying on her doorstep. I felt bad for her kids, but I was done being the nice guy. Brett wanted to play sufferer, Karen wanted to play sufferer, their friends wanted to threaten me. Fine. Let's see how they liked being on the receiving end. The next week, Jim called with more news. Brett's lawyer contacted me. He wants to settle the civil suit. For how much? He's offering $50,000. Not enough. David, that's probably all he has. Then he should have thought about that before he decided to threaten me through his friends. What do you want me to tell them? Tell them the offer is $200,000 plus a public apology printed in the local newspaper. They'll never agree to that. Then we'll see them in court. 2 weeks later, we were back in court for the divorce hearing. Morrison had clearly been coaching Karen because she looked composed and sympathetic. Your Honor, my client has been devastated by this divorce. She made a mistake, she admits that, but she's been punished far beyond what any reasonable person would consider appropriate. She's lost her home, her family, her standing in the community. She's been publicly humiliated and threatened. Mr. Walsh has conducted a campaign of revenge that goes far beyond seeking justice. Judge Harrison looked at me. Mr. Patterson, how does your client respond? Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh conducted a 6-month affair, spending marital assets on hotel rooms and gifts for her lover. She brought this man into the marital home repeatedly, betraying not just her husband, but creating an unsafe environment for their daughter. When confronted, she chose to leave rather than attempt reconciliation. She has shown no genuine remorse, only self-pity. Your Honor, Morrison interrupted, my client has attempted repeatedly to reconcile with her husband. He has refused all attempts at communication. Mr. Patterson? Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh filed for divorce before attempting any reconciliation. She hired counsel and began asset discovery within 48 hours of being caught in infidelity. This was not a woman seeking to save her marriage. Judge Harrison reviewed the evidence for 20 minutes. Financial records, hotel receipts, phone records, text messages, all of it painting a picture of a deliberate, sustained deception. Mrs. Walsh, did you use marital assets to conduct this affair? Karen looked at Morrison, who nodded. Yes, Your Honor. How much? Approximately $8,000 over 6 months. And you conducted this affair in the marital home? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Walsh, are you seeking alimony? No, Your Honor. Are you seeking custody of your daughter? Joint custody, Your Honor, though Emma has expressed her preference to live with me. Mrs. Walsh, do you have any evidence that Mr. Walsh has been violent toward you or your daughter? No, Your Honor. Any evidence of substance misuse or neglect? No, Your Honor. Judge Harrison set down his papers. I'm granting the divorce on grounds of infidelity. Mr. Walsh will retain the marital home and primary custody of Emma. Mrs. Walsh will receive her retirement account and personal property. Mrs. Walsh will reimburse the marital estate $8,000 for money spent on the affair. No alimony will be awarded? Morrison looked stunned. Your Honor, surely my client deserves some consideration for 17 years of marriage? Miss Morrison, your client forfeited consideration when she chose to commit infidelity and spend marital assets on her affair. The divorce is granted as stated. Outside the courthouse, Karen was sobbing uncontrollably. Morrison was trying to explain appeal options, but Karen wasn't listening. This isn't over, Morrison said to Jim as we walked past. We'll appeal this decision. Good luck with that, Jim replied. In the parking lot, Emma was waiting for me. She'd skipped school to be there for the verdict. How did it go, Dad? It's over. We won. She hugged me, but I could feel the sadness in it. What happens to Mom now? She'll figure it out. She has nowhere to go. Aunt Linda can't support her forever. That's not our problem anymore, sweetheart. Dad, I know what she did was wrong, but Emma, your mother is a grown woman. She made her choices. Now she gets to live with them. That evening, I was having dinner with Emma when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then, you think you've won? This isn't over. Brett, You destroyed my life. My wife left me. My kids won't talk to me. I lost my job, my house, everything. Good. I'm going to make you pay for this. Brett, you're violating the restraining order just by calling me. You want to add more charges to your record? I don't have anything left to lose. The line went dead. I immediately called the police and reported the call. They said they'd send a patrol car by the house. Dad, who was that? Emma asked. Nobody important. But I was lying. Brett Sullivan was becoming a problem, and problems had a way of escalating if you didn't deal with them properly. The next day, I took a personal day and drove to Brett's apartment. He was living in a rundown complex on the wrong side of town now, his fancy suburban life a memory. I knocked on his door. He answered in a bathrobe, looking like he hadn't shaved in weeks. What the hell are you doing here? We need to talk. I've got nothing to say to you. Sure you do. You called me last night, remember? He tried to close the door, but I put my foot in the way. Here's the deal, Brett. You're going to leave me and my family alone. You're going to stop calling, stop sending your friends to threaten me, and stop acting like a sufferer. You screwed my wife, you got caught, and now you're paying the price. That's how the world works. You ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I just made sure there were consequences. My kids hate me. My wife took everything. I'm living in this crap hole because of you? No, you're living in this crap hole because you decided to stick your pecker where it didn't belong. Own your choices, Brett. He stared at me with pure hatred. I should eliminate you, but you won't. Because you're a coward. Cowards cheat on their wives. Cowards send other people to fight their battles. Cowards make threatening phone calls in the middle of the night. I leaned closer. You know what real men do, Brett? They face the consequences of their actions without whining about it. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing in his doorway like the broken man he'd become. 3 weeks later, Jim called with news about the civil suit. Brett's lawyer called. They want to settle. For how much? $100,000. And he'll sign a statement admitting fault and agreeing to cease all contact with you and your family. What about the public apology? They're balking at that. His lawyer says it would be too humiliating. Good. Humiliation is the point. David, $100,000 is a lot of money, and it guarantees he'll leave you alone. Counteroffer. $150,000, the signed statement, and a written apology published in the newspaper. Take it or leave it. I'll present it to them. The next day, Brett's lawyer agreed to the settlement. Within a week, the money was in my account, and Brett Sullivan had publicly apologized for his poor judgment and destructive behavior that damaged the Walsh family. The newspaper article was buried on page 6, but everyone in town read it. Brett Sullivan was officially a pariah now, his reputation destroyed as thoroughly as he'd tried to destroy my marriage. I used the settlement money to pay off the mortgage. At 38 years old, I owned my house free and clear. Not bad for a transmission mechanic who'd been betrayed by his wife. Emma graduated high school that spring and got accepted to Michigan State. The night before she left for college, we sat on the front porch talking. Dad, are you going to be okay here by yourself? I'll be fine. I like the quiet. Do you ever think about dating again? Not really. I'm in no hurry to trust someone like that again. Not all women are like Mom. I know. But I'm not ready to find out which ones are and which ones aren't. She was quiet for a moment. Do you think Mom will ever get her life together? I don't know. That's up to her. Karen had moved to Grand Rapids after the divorce, working as a receptionist at a dental office. She called Emma once a week, always crying, always talking about how sorry she was and how unfair everything had been. She asks about you sometimes, Emma said. What do you tell her? That you're doing well, that you seem happy. I am happy, happier than I've been in years. Really? Really? Your mother spent years making me feel like I wasn't good enough, like I needed to be someone else to make her happy. Now, I know the truth. I was never the problem. After Emma left for college, I settled into a routine. Work, gym, home. I read books I'd been meaning to read for years. I took up woodworking in the garage. I slept well for the first time in years. 6 months later, Tony asked me if I wanted to go to a bar with him. I'd been turning down invitations for months, but something about that night felt different. Sure, I said. Why not? We went to Murphy's, a working-class bar where the beer was cheap and the conversation was honest. I was nursing my second beer when I noticed a woman at the end of the bar reading a book. You see her? Tony asked. Yeah. Sarah Mitchell. She's a nurse at the hospital. Divorced about 2 years ago. Good for her. You should go talk to her. I'm not ready for that. David, it's been 2 years since Karen left. You can't live like a monk forever. I'm not living like a monk. I'm living like a man who learned his lesson. But I found myself looking at Sarah throughout the evening. She was attractive in a quiet way, reading her book and ignoring the men who tried to buy her drinks. Something about her self-possession reminded me of the woman I'd thought Karen was when I first met her. When she got up to leave, she walked past our table. "Good book?" I asked. She looked down at me, surprised. "It's okay. Stephen King. Not his best work?" "Which one?" "Gerald's Game." "Yeah, that one's pretty dark even for him." She smiled slightly. "You read King?" "When I have time, I'm more of a Richard Russo fan." "Empire Falls?" "Great book." "Depressing as hell, but great." She laughed. A real laugh, not the forced kind. "I'm Sarah." "David." "Well, David, it was nice meeting someone who reads something other than sports magazines." After she left, Tony grinned at me. "See? That wasn't so hard. I just talked to her about books." That's how it starts. The next week, I saw Sarah at the grocery store. She was in the produce section, looking frustrated. "Trouble with the vegetables?" I asked. She turned, recognized me, and smiled. "I'm trying to figure out how to tell if these tomatoes are ripe." "You don't buy tomatoes in October in Michigan. They're all shipped from Mexico, and they taste like cardboard. So, what do you do if you want tomatoes? You wait until summer, or you buy the canned ones and pretend they're fresh." She laughed. "That's depressingly practical." I'm a practical guy. We ended up having coffee at the diner down the street. Sarah was easy to talk to, funny without trying too hard, intelligent without being pretentious. She'd been divorced for 3 years, had no kids, and worked as an ICU nurse. "What happened with your marriage?" she asked. "My wife was cheating on me for 6 months. I caught them, and she decided to make it my fault." Ouch. "What about yours?" "My husband decided he was gay. Took him 12 years of marriage to figure it out." "That's rough." "It was actually a relief. I'd been wondering what was wrong with me for years. Turns out nothing was wrong with me." We talked for 2 hours. When we parted ways, she gave me her number. "If you want to continue the conversation sometime," she said. I called her 3 days later. We went to dinner at a quiet restaurant outside town, somewhere we were unlikely to run into people who knew about my divorce. "You don't have to hide from people," Sarah said over dessert. "I'm not hiding. I just don't need the whole town analyzing my personal life." "Fair enough. But you know they're going to talk anyway, right?" "Probably. So why not give them something worth talking about?" I looked at her across the table, this woman who'd been hurt by marriage but hadn't given up on people entirely, who read books and worked nights saving lives and laughed at my terrible jokes. "You want to be worth talking about?" I asked. "With the right person." We dated quietly for 6 months before I introduced her to Emma during Christmas break. They got along well, which surprised me. Emma had been protective of me since the divorce, suspicious of any woman who showed interest. "She's different from Mom," Emma said after Sarah left. "How so?" "She listens to what you say instead of waiting for her turn to talk." "That's a good way to put it. Are you serious about her?" "I think so." "Good. You deserve to be happy, Dad." A year later, Sarah moved in with me. We didn't get married. Neither of us was in a hurry to make that kind of legal commitment again, but we built a life together that felt solid and honest. The house that had once been filled with Karen's lies and betrayal became a home again. Sarah's books mixed with mine on the shelves. Her coffee mug sat next to mine in the dishwasher. Her scrubs hung in the closet next to my work clothes. It was while we were having dinner one evening that my phone rang. Emma, calling from college. "Dad, you need to know something. Brett Sullivan is dead." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What happened?" "Self-destruction. He hung himself in his apartment. His brother called Mom and Mom called me." Sarah was watching me with concern. "Are you okay?" she whispered. I nodded, still processing the news. "When?" "Yesterday. They found him this morning. Dad, there's more. He left a note." "What did it say?" "He blamed you. He said you destroyed his life, and he couldn't live with the shame anymore." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. "Emma, listen to me carefully. Brett Sullivan destroyed his own life when he decided to have an affair with my wife. What happened to him after that was the consequence of his choices, not mine. I know, Dad, but people are talking. They're saying you drove him to it. Let them talk. Dad, his family is angry, really angry. They're saying you should have shown mercy. After I hung up, Sarah reached across the table and took my hand. Tell me what happened. I told her about the affair, the divorce, the civil suit, all of it. She listened without judgment, her hand steady in mine. Do you feel guilty? She asked when I finished. No. Should I? Only you can answer that. I thought about it for a long moment. He had choices every step of the way. He chose to have the affair. He chose to bring his friends to threaten me. He chose to keep escalating instead of accepting responsibility. I didn't make those choices for him. But you could have been merciful. I was merciful. I could have pressed charges for the threatening phone calls. I could have sued him for more money. I could have made his life a lot worse than I did. And now he's dead. And now he's dead because he couldn't live with the consequences of his actions. That's not my fault, Sarah. She squeezed my hand. I believe you. The next week, I had to deal with the fallout. Brett's family was threatening to sue me for wrongful end. They claimed I'd engaged in harassment and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Jim Patterson laughed when I told him. They don't have a case. Everything you did was legal. You can't sue someone for winning in court. But they can try. Let them try. They'll just waste money on legal fees. Brett's funeral was held on a Thursday. I didn't go, but Sarah did. She came home looking thoughtful. It was sad, she said. Maybe 50 people there. His ex-wife brought the kids. They looked lost. I feel bad for them. His brother gave a speech. He called you a monster. What do you think? I think hurt people say hurtful things. I also think you're not responsible for Brett Sullivan's passing. 6 months later, Brett's family dropped their lawsuit. Their lawyer had apparently explained the realities of Michigan law to them. You can't sue someone for the consequences of your own bad choices. Life settled back into a comfortable rhythm. I worked at the garage, came home to Sarah, visited Emma at college, and slowly rebuilt the trust that Karen had shattered. The house felt lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from its foundation. One evening, 3 years after the divorce, I was working in the garage when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Karen getting out of a beat-up Honda. She looked older, worn down by the years since our divorce. Her hair was grayer, her face lined with stress and regret. She stood in the driveway for a long moment, gathering courage. I set down my tools and walked outside. Hello, Karen. David, thank you for seeing me. I haven't agreed to see you. I'm just being polite. Can we talk, please, just for a few minutes? I glanced at the house where Sarah was visible through the kitchen window making dinner. 5 minutes. I heard about Brett, Karen said. I know what people are saying about you. And I wanted you to know that I don't blame you for what happened to him. He made his own choices. Why are you telling me this? Because I know what it's like to be blamed for someone else's choices. People have been blaming me for Brett's end too, saying I was the one who seduced him, who ruined his marriage. Weren't you? We ruined each other's marriages. But that doesn't make either of us responsible for what he did to himself. I studied her face, looking for the manipulation I'd grown so used to during our marriage. But she just looked tired and sad. What do you want, Karen? I want to apologize. Really apologize. Not for what I lost, but for what I did to you, to us, to Emma. Okay. I was selfish and cruel. I convinced myself that I deserved to be happy, that you weren't giving me what I needed. But the truth is, I was just bored and stupid, and I thought I could have everything without consequences. Why are you telling me this now? Because Brett's end made me realize something. You could have destroyed me completely. You could have made my life impossible, but you didn't. You fought for what was yours, but you didn't try to destroy me just for the sake of destroying me. I had no reason to destroy you. I just wanted you out of my life. That's what I mean. You're a better person than I am. I looked at this woman I'd spent 17 years with, this stranger who'd once been my wife. Karen, I accept your apology, but it doesn't change anything. We're done, We've been done for years. I know. I just wanted you to know that I know what I lost. And I'm sorry. She turned and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, then went back into the house. Who was that? Sarah asked. Karen. What did she want? To apologize. How do you feel? Relieved, I think. Like the last chapter of an old book finally got finished. Sarah smiled and kissed my cheek. Good. I was getting tired of competing with a ghost. You were never competing with anything. You won a long time ago. That night, we sat on the front porch drinking wine and watching the stars. The house was quiet around us, peaceful in a way it had never been during my marriage. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd forgiven her? Sarah asked. No, some things can't be forgiven. Not because the person doesn't deserve forgiveness, but because forgiveness would require you to pretend something didn't happen that fundamentally changed who you are. And the affair changed you? It taught me who I really was. It taught me that I wouldn't tolerate being lied to or disrespected. It taught me that I was stronger than I thought I was. And Brett? Do you ever think about him? Sometimes. I think about how different things might have been if he'd just admitted what he'd done and tried to make amends instead of trying to make it my fault. Do you feel responsible for his passing? No. Brett Sullivan eliminated himself because he couldn't live with the consequences of his choices. That's on him, not me. A year later, Emma graduated from college and got a job in Detroit. At her graduation party, she pulled me aside. Dad, I'm proud of you. For what? For not becoming bitter, for finding Sarah, for showing me that you can survive betrayal without becoming a terrible person. Your mother wasn't a terrible person, Emma. She just made terrible choices. I know. But some people would have used what happened to them as an excuse to become cruel or bitter. You didn't. I had good reasons not to. Like what? Like you. Like the fact that being bitter would have meant she won. That evening, as the party wound down, I found myself standing in the same living room where I'd confronted Karen and Brett 4 years earlier. The room looked different now. Sarah's touches were everywhere, from the books on the shelves to the photos on the mantelpiece. The old life was gone completely, replaced by something better, something honest. Tony approached me with a beer. You look thoughtful. Just remembering. Good memories or bad? Both. But mostly just grateful that I'm not that guy anymore. What guy? The guy who was married to someone who could lie to his face for 6 months without flinching. You're better off. I know. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Sarah, and I cleaned up the party debris. As we worked, I thought about the journey that had brought me to this moment. The betrayal, the divorce, the revenge, Brett's end, Karen's apology, all of it had led to this quiet evening with a woman who loved me honestly. What are you thinking about? Sarah asked. How lucky I am. Lucky? Lucky that Karen cheated on me. Sarah laughed. That's an interesting way to look at it. If she hadn't cheated, I'd still be married to someone who didn't love me enough to be faithful. I'd still be living a lie. And you wouldn't have met me. And I wouldn't have met you. She kissed me then, soft and sure, and I remembered what it felt like to be loved by someone who meant it. 5 years after my divorce, I was living the life I should have had all along. Honest work, honest love, honest peace. Karen had done me a favor by showing me who she really was. Brett Sullivan had done me a favor by being stupid enough to get caught. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. Sometimes revenge is just another word for justice. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the end of one story is the beginning of a better one. I never saw Karen again after that night on my driveway. I heard she eventually moved to Florida and got a job at a resort. Emma visited her once a year, but they weren't close. The woman who had been the center of my world for 17 years became just another person I used to know. Brett Sullivan became a cautionary tale in our small town. The man who threw away everything for an affair and couldn't live with the consequences. His passing was ruled a self-destruction, and his family eventually stopped trying to blame me for it. The house I'd fought to keep became the foundation for a new life. Sarah and I were married there in the backyard 3 years after we met, with Emma as maid of honor and Tony as my best man. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends, but it felt more real than the elaborate wedding Karen and I had thrown 17 years earlier. On our wedding night, as we lay in the bedroom that had once been the scene of my greatest humiliation, Sarah asked me if I ever regretted the way things had happened. No, I said. Every choice I made led me to you. I wouldn't change any of it. Not even the pain? Especially not the pain. The pain taught me what I wouldn't tolerate. It made me strong enough to deserve someone like you. She was quiet for a moment. I love you, David Walsh. I love you too. And in that moment, lying in my own bed with my honest wife, I finally understood what happiness felt like. Not the desperate, grasping happiness I'd tried to build with Karen, but the quiet, solid happiness that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you're worth. The echoes in the stairwell had finally stopped. The house was quiet at last.